Hi, my name is Mike Taylor, and I'm here with Charlie Daniels from Churches by Daniels. And we're talking about a video series that we have going on now, which is Building Forward. And today's subject is Churches on Demand. You know, Charlie, we've been talking about church growth and when churches grow. And sometimes in that growing process, you might not want to go out and build something right away. It might be a better option to change or regenerate a commercial facility into a worship facility. Talk to us a little bit about that process.
I agree totally with that process. And, just a quick story about a church I'm dealing with right now. Their numbers were such that they were doing 500-600 a few months ago. Now they're doing 1,000.
Wow.
Okay. They're doing 3 services. They're jammed. Every way you can imagine, they're jammed, which is a good thing. However, if they went and bought land now and started planning to build a new facility, it would take them months to go through all that process. In going through that process, they may lose the momentum they have. What they've done is they bought a big box, what I call a big box. That's a Walmart or a Sutherland's
right.
or something like this. So they bought a big box, and we're upfitting it. We're putting all the classrooms in. Actually, the price on it is really good. So within a few months, they'll maintain this momentum. They'll be in a new facility where they can do 3 times the people that they're doing now and get that growth that they wanted. In refurbishing and buying a facility like that, there's some things you need to watch out for.
Mm-hmm.
And those are, you're going to have to add bathrooms. You go to a Walmart, you got a small amount of bathrooms. But you go put 1,000 people in this church, you're going to need more bathrooms. The codes and all are going to dictate that, so it's not something you have to worry about. The architects and all will walk you through it. You'll have enough bathrooms. You're going to have to make sure that you got enough heating and air. I don't care what church I go to. The pastors complain about the heating and air. It's always hot on the stage, and then it's cold in the auditorium. So, but really, you do have to go back and put heating and air in there. You have to make sure that your lighting is coordinated, so you got good sound, lights, video, and the lighting has an adverse effect on the air conditioning. So all that needs to really be looked into.
Yeah, and what about egress space? Oh, what is that? That's a weird term.
Yeah, egress is the thing you're going to get into with the codes and the fire marshal. You're going to have a certain amount of egress to get the people out of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And they are going to dictate that to you. That and ADA, Americans for Disability Act, you're going to have to comply with all that.
You talked about in the egress space, people that flowing out of the building and that type of thing. Well, when they go out of the building, they got to get in their cars, right, and go somewhere. So what about traffic flow in building, one of these or remaking something?
Yeah, back to egress a little bit. You definitely have to keep the aisles open. You got to have wide enough aisles. The old churches, we'd cram the aisles in, more seats. No, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have nice egress. Same thing with traffic. If a guy's got to wait in the parking lot an hour after service,
right,
he may not come back.
Right.
So you need a nice flow to your traffic. On the newer buildings we do, not the retrofits, we actually will do traffic studies.
Mm-hmm.
And we may have to add outlets or inlets
mm-hmm.
to a building that you're retrofitting. But yes, traffic flow is very important. Needs to be considered right up front.
Yeah, one of my pastors used to tell me that Christianity begins in the parking lot.
That's the truth. Yeah.
You know what, Charlie? Talk to us a little bit about city regulations.
Well, you're going to have to deal with the city regulations. You're going to have to deal with state.
Right.
Fire marshal, that's a big regulation that you need to get them incorporated in. But the best way to do that is when you're looking at buying the building, before you actually purchase it, go ahead and get the city involved. Go to the city, go to the fire marshal, have an architect, an engineer go with you, have an engineer certify the building. Go through and make sure it's structurally sound.
Yeah, and these things are tedious. I mean, I know I went through one of these things at one of my former jobs, but they're necessary.
They're
having the
necessary.
fire marshals come out and working on your kitchen.
Yes.
You know, there's all types of things that you don't even think about. Your fire alarms need to be
Yes.
regulated. There's so many different kinds of regulations. You just, rack your brain over these types of things. You want to bang your head against the wall sometimes. But
it's important to
Yeah.
do them before you actually pay the money. We're working on a church now that they bought a big box, and it's working really well. But there was things definitely that they had to check on, had to know about the parking requirements, the structure of the building. You really need that structure looked at. It's a bad thing to buy the building saying, wait, man, this was great. It was a Walmart. We're going to move in, to find out, yeah, it was, but it don't qualify for a church. And you've spent $500,000, $600,000, $800,000. It's not a good idea.
Right. There's all different types of satellite campuses. What do you think some of those things are?
Well, what we run into a lot is video delayed services where they'll video them, and then the next week they'll play them at the other church. There are some that are doing them to where they're instantaneous. They're doing them right now, and they do that through either through satellite or through the TV networks. So either one of those works really well. I think that what you're seeing is everybody's moving to immediate. They want it immediate.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see it immediately. They want the same music, the same everything. So that's where I think it's going.
And with the video on delay services, you're able to have multi-venues on one campus where you're watching something in the main sanctuary, and then in another room you could be having a totally different service. Charlie was telling me about one of the churches that he works with that does that at a Baptist church. What's that like?
They were doing a service where they had a full service in their auditorium, and in their gym area they had a more of a youth service. They had the band there. They did all their announcements in there. But when the pastor came up to speak, he would come up on video. So they did it instantaneous, but it worked real nice. They built a new church, and they're still doing that because it worked and it met the needs of the youth. One of the other things is when you're doing multi-site on campus, it just saves you a lot of money. You're not building new structures. It just helps you all the way around, keeps everybody on campus.
Yeah, and satellite campuses, there's different kinds. You can have a satellite campus without video, where you have a morning service and then you'll go and have an evening service somewhere else. And those types of services, it's just about reaching people where they're at. So one type of service might work well for your congregation as opposed to another's congregation. And in order to do these satellite campuses, Charlie, you got to kind of investigate some of the technical aspects of that. Like, you really need to plan ahead,
Yes,
Yeah, and get the right, just like you were talking about earlier in one of our earlier videos, is, getting your committee together. You need a committee to make sure that this video on demand is going to be working out for you. And another thing is, making sure you have a budget for this. You were talking to me about one of the, some people that who they started one of these satellite campuses and with video, and their budget was pretty expensive.
Pretty expensive, particularly if you're doing no delay. You're just having a small delay. It costs a lot of money to be set up, make sure they're all wired in proper. And it's expensive to do that. But there are other ways around it. That's why people are doing the delay. They're doing it with video. They can do it the next week. And most people don't know.
And also one of the things you were talking about, streaming, is, when you do stream, some of the research that I've looked up is that you need to be making sure that you have the right bandwidth from about 900 kilobytes per second to 2,500 kilobytes per second. So that's something that you're also going to have to factor in there when you're getting your video equipment, and you need to make sure that you have the right bandwidth. Something else is, monitoring. You need to make sure that while you have these services on the web that you're able to monitor the content, because a lot of them are interactive, with all the social media going on, and and you need to make sure that your social media presence is felt, but at the same time you need to monitor what's going on in your like little chat room area while people are watching your service. So that's an important thing to have out there to be thinking about.
Well, we're doing one that they're doing another campus, but they're doing it where they're building a whole facility. They got the pastor there, and the larger church is supporting this campus, and it's close to the other one. So it's not one that's out of town. It's not one 5 states over. It's in the same town, but they have the money to go spend to do a really new thing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of your churches, the change that's going on in the churches is such that some parishioners don't want to go that direction.
Right.
So you're almost better off to do another venue.
Yeah.
And particularly if one can support the other, and then you have both.
Really, the people are what's the most important thing to have in place, I think, and the planning and the organization, because if you're doing a service in one location and you want the same service to see the same sermon at the same time, there's got to be a lot of coordination that goes into that, and it's not something to go into lightly. You just need to make sure that you have a plan in place. People want churches everywhere. They want them on their iPad, their iPhone. They want them in the church sanctuary. They want them in another facilities, that joins with the church, or another satellite campus. Yep. Talk a little bit like that and how you see, church changing today.
Church has definitely changed. When I was a kid, you go in, you sing 3 songs, and small church, shotgun church, and today the music, the lighting, the sound, the video. I go to a large church and people say, well, I couldn't never go and watch it on video. Well, the church I go to, I watch it on video, even though I have a pastor there and he's right in front of you. So I do see why people are using video, and how the younger generation definitely likes video a lot better. They're just so accustomed to it.
What about ministries when a church does buy one of these buildings, with children's ministries or fellowship halls, and what are maybe the benefits of that?
What I found is most of the time you're dealing with a church and they've got 10,000 square feet, and they turn around and they buy one of these larger buildings, and all of a sudden they got 40,000 feet, and it gives them a lot of space. And I've even seen churches take and divide it off to where they don't use all of it. They can use the other side of it for playground, for kids, for blow-up games, for that type of thing. It really enhances their children's ministry. So there's a lot of uses for them. If you don't need the whole building, you use it for other things and you grow into it. Works great.
Well, we appreciate you joining us here and watching this Church on Demand and our Building Forward series. And you know what? If you need any more information, you can contact us at the website or the phone number at the bottom of the screen. We just want to thank you once again, because it's Churches by Daniel's vision to build churches and to help you to build your church.